IFX. And today we're going to focus on virtual production. We have an esteemed guest. I hope you had a chance to check out their featurettes this coming past week. So we have Charles and Laure and Elton, John, Jennifer, and Ayo. Ayo, right? Yes. Ayo. I knew I was going to mess that up. Anyway. All right, you guys. I want to really focus on the future of education and representation in the space of virtual production. I know you guys have worked hand in hand. Jennifer, I was so impressed with your work and your educational journey. Could you tell me, how do you feel about the next wave of virtual production and motion capture in your space and getting representation in your area?
Yeah, I really think that we're definitely moving towards we're going to see a lot more machine learning showing up. I think we're going to see that starting to change what we need to focus on, how we set up for our shoots. I think it's going to definitely expand the ability for remote collaboration and for more and more people to have access to this kind of technology and be able to elevate the results that we're seeing on every level, from small independent projects to large feature films or AAA games. So I think that's really going to make a big difference, as well as the ability to see these types of new technologies show up at the university level as well.
That's fantastic. So Elton, you set up an entire division for you to educate and work with the HBCUs. So tell me, how is that going, and what's the next steps for you?
Yeah, there's a lot of different intersections and opportunities. Leverage like pre-existing, careers with immersive technology and virtual production. So we have a program that we kicked off with Facebook fellowship. I was able to see just how many different areas virtual production started to impact, right? So it's a very, very wide, a range of skills and that can really, really help storytelling. And I think that's what's been really important, showing like architectural design departments, media departments, computer science departments. They're now starting to move and working like engines like Unreal Engine and learning how these tools can be used. So it's just, for us, it's really about awareness, showing them that, hey, take a look at this. This can expand a lot of different resources for you. And a lot of people just don't know about it still.
That's true. So Laure, in your experience, you're on the other side of the world, in the UK. So based upon your experience, how would you mentor, or what advice would you give a young person who wants to kind of get into this field, or how they could better prepare themselves?
Yeah, I think as someone who's newly emerging, I am in a position to kind of give people real-time advice on how I am doing it at the moment. I think what's really exciting me, and I think it's worth people exploring, is the mindset shift that we are experiencing. So looking at what the opportunities are, but also framing how you deliver work in a non-linear way. This is what the engine is now allowing us to expand. So skills around being able to think interdimensionally or across multiple planes and engaging with people. So collaboration and communication is really part and really a strong factor in making this really just such a great opportunity for everyone.
That's true. So John, I know that you, your parents were from Ghana, and was there any would you see if there was any resistance to having kids from other countries decide to take this on as a future? So you're not a doctor, you're not a lawyer, you're not in education. What do you think are the boundaries for the next generation to kind of buck the system, or the traditional jobs, to be able to break through to this area?
Yeah, I feel like technology is moving forward regardless, and you can have children in a village that have phones, and they know how to move things. My daughter knows more about technology than I do. I'm asking her, well, how do you do this and how do you do that? So technology is going to play an expansive role in education. I was somewhat resisting technology in a way, because I felt, I saw some of the dangers of it, but I realized when coming to realize that no matter who's using the technology, it can propel and move people forward in a very positive way. Case in point, you know, at GRX, we're working with Verizon Innovative Learning to teach students through music. And, you know, through pop culture and arts, it's always been a powerful medium. So with the advent of technology and the way that virtual reality is opening that door, it now closes the gap, or it can help close the gap for students that have been failed traditionally in education spaces, without being able to tap into a place where they feel like they can really tap into their own gifts and talents. So it's exciting what technology does and what it offers.
That's great. So Charles, I know you've been able to kind of graft your life around all of your childhood loves and follow your passion and your bliss. So that took a tremendous courage. You know, what would you say would inspire a younger person to kind of take that path less traveled, or would you like it to be more traveled? I think because you've kind of blazed your own trail.
I would like to see further traveling. I think what's gonna, further it is access. As somebody that had a little bit of access growing up and been able to make some steps forward, I think access to technology, to different forms, the democratization of technology will definitely push people forward. We're going to see new forms of creativity and new sciences birth as technology improves.
That's fantastic. So, Io, so your journey, is taking you across the world. What would you say would benefit a young person who wants to see this as their future? Like, what would you tell them?
I would tell them get into OpenXR. Basically anything XR. So that's virtual reality, mixed reality, Magic Leap, PlayStation VR. I kind of echo what John and Charles said. Technology is definitely the wave of the future. So you definitely need to be on the bleeding edge of that stuff. Like Magic Leap is kind of mixed reality. PlayStation VR was kind of games focused. Magic Leap is kind of wider, focus. Like we have medical, we have automotive, we have defense applications. Literally right now we're kind of on the verge of a huge and another industrial gold mine in terms of XR. So if you can get into anything XR, OpenXR, Vulkan, graphics, programming, that kind of stuff, that's you're already ahead of the curve at that point.
That's fantastic. So what do you think would be a barrier to, POCs or underrepresented people to break into this field? And that question can go to anyone.
I think hardware. Hardware is our biggest barrier to enter into the field itself. We need computers powerful enough that can handle the technology and the software that's being presented to us. So it's just, I need access to hardware, such as I need a VR headset, an AR headset. I need a computer. I need a microphone. I need a soundboard. And then the software, mostly a lot of it is free. So Fruity Loops built a whole generation of musicians. And I think Unreal and Unity will build a whole layer of reality scientists, people that play with reality in both virtual space and augmented space.
It's true.
And to piggyback on that, I definitely am aware of the advantage that I was given in that I grew up in a predominantly Caucasian neighborhood or county even. So even the public school that I went to, my public high school, had a broadcast journalism department. We had a small live TV station in our school, so we could do live shows every day. And I know that definitely gave me a heads up on starting to learn this stuff. And it's once you talk to people outside of that kind of world, you realize, wow, I was given the opportunity to have resources. And because of that, I was able to springboard forward. So the biggest question is, how do we offer those resources to everybody? So that's not such a unique experience to have. And I also believe in a lot of cases, especially on set, a lot of it has to do with who you know. like, do you come from a family of people that have been doing this for a long time? Is your aunt or uncle already doing this kind of thing? So there's a lot of connections. There's a lot of networking opportunities that we need to start to create for ourselves, for each other, so that we can start to have that same leg up that people have had in the past, to be able to level that playing field, so that is no longer what people look for. It's more about your skills, your talent, your ability to move forward. I think that's going to be something that really changes the playing field and diversifies the workforce.
And also to add to what Jennifer's saying, I think exposure as well. People in underserved communities at times can get a pair of Jordans, for $300 if they, figured out how to get it done. So I feel there is the access, definitely, but also just knowing that it's available. There's a lot of times for us, we don't even know that it's available as widespread as it may seem, because we're on the internet all the time and we're like seeing it. So we think that's what it is, but most people don't even know much about VR, at least in certain communities. So I think once they're exposed to the possibilities of what is, their imagination begins to kick in and they'll find ways to figure out how to make it happen.
That's true. That's great. So with that, so Jennifer, I want to ask a question. You've done a lot of work on first unit work. Had you experienced any, because you're so specialized, was there any barrier for you? Were you listened to? Did you have to prove yourself? Did you feel that in those spaces that you had to do 110 or 20% more just to be heard? Or do you think because you're so incredible, you were like, let her have it?
That's a funny question. Because as a person of color as well as a female, I was definitely in a role that was unique for the kind of person I am, I guess you'd say. Like, I remember being on set and people saw me maybe at lunch and saying, "Oh, are you in hair and makeup? Are you in production? Are you in the office?" I'm like, "Oh no, I'm running the mocap system in the trenches." It's kind of like there's always that reaction. Oh, wow. Like, I didn't know that someone like that, like you, was doing that kind of thing. So I feel like there was always that initial reaction, like having to go out of your way to say, someone has a question, "Oh, I'm the person that you need. I'm here to answer your question." Like, I'm not just, I'm a bit more of a supervisor. There was always that kind of, having to introduce yourself, go out of your way to make yourself known that you are that person. But I think very quickly I found that other people of color would come up to me and say, "It's so cool to see you in this position." And that always took me by surprise, because I would forget that was such that looked so different, and that they were recognizing that kind of thing. So I appreciate the support system around me to be able to kind of people, and I found other crew going out of their way to point out, that's the person in charge right there. Like, she's the one you go to. So I think that shift kind of turned more into a celebration of the fact that I was in a different position than was expected, as opposed to it being a roadblock for me.
That's fantastic. So, Ao, when you were working in engineering, and you had mentioned before in your experiences, you were very, very one or two in your entire kind of departments. Did you ever feel?
In fact, the only one.
You felt that you were alone, or did you feel like you had
the only one? It's very sad and lonely being like the only black face in like a sea of like 300 people at conferences, at at meetings, and like people. Same thing with Jennifer. People thinking you're the security guard or something. Like, what the hell? It's like, I had a 20-year career, and I literally can count the number of, other Black software engineers I had on my team on one hand. It's really that terrible. So it's very, it's kind of demoralizing. It's kind of gut wrenching sometimes, like you feel it definitely is, like, it feels like a barrier, because you basically you basically just feel isolated. But at the same time, it's one of those things that where you're just like, well, I'm just going to make exactly what Jennifer was saying. Like, you have to do like 110% and just be better than everyone else. You basically have to keep on top of all the technologies Like I have had to go from like 16-bit assembly languages, like, Vulkan, like all the way from OpenGL to Vulkan to now OpenXR. Like you constantly have to keep learning and pushing yourself. So one of the advantages of once you do have that network of finding people who are like you, they kind of inspire you to also be greater and just push yourself even more. So most of the Black engineers I've actually worked with have been always like super exceptional. So like bar none, I've had like, really very good support network. So that's one thing I'm really proud of.
Yep. So that's great to see. So Elton, in your school, do you, when you talk about VR and about the future, is there almost like almost a self-care component of like what to prepare you for going into that space that we're not necessarily traditionally a part of? Have you thought about that support system for your students? I know we're focused on HBCUs, but when you go into the spaces like that, it's almost like a cocooned a little bit. And so do you know what I'm trying to say? It's like you're just trying to figure out how to protect them.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we always, one of our core values is to teach people how to be investable versus just employable. So they understand that their narrative starts with them first, right? So it's, we always say the most important story you're gonna have to tell is the story you tell yourself first. I give you all, but if you don't really understand how to craft your own plan to take this and insert a story into what you're doing, it's not really going to work, so you have to really start with yourself. And we really firmly believe that just handing people technology without them having a direct path set down for themselves and the obstacles that'll come ahead of you, you'll be prone to give up. And I experienced that myself when I was working, with some of these bigger shows and projects where I had to really, really take a step back and say, you know what, this is bigger than just technology. This is me having to understand how to build myself internally so I can compete externally. So, that's definitely a core value, starting off for sure internally. And I agree with you, especially in certain communities, where you're constantly told that you're underserved or undervalued. We look at it as they're more under, than anything. So we just try to change the narrative first. Before we hand them all of this and then bombard them with all this technology.
That's true. So Laura, your experiences in the UK, is it as a woman, you're head of production and you've kind of worked your way up the ranks and you've been doing this for a lot of years. What methods of self-care did you have to go through in order to kind of just persevere?
I think it's just echoing what Alton said, that there are stories that you hear, there are stories that are sold to you, but to look internally and also to invest. One thing that I'm heavily doing, especially since last year, invest in your community, in your circle, in your network, because it truly does take a village. No one grows or, extends themselves and is able to achieve excellence without those surrounding them being their supporters, their champions, their cheerleaders, and providing them with that assurance and groundedness to help them through when the days are tough and long, definitely, reinforce that. And so just blending all those tools together and realizing that this is really something that is a passion. And if that truly is what you want to engage in, that, you give your best, you do your all, and do right by everyone, and the outcome is truly going to be the one that you deserve. And there are things that will stand in your way. The systems and the structures do exist, but to just carry on, you just do not know. These environments and these industries are changing so rapidly. So, just don't give up, get your crew, and keep going.
No, that's true. So Charles, in your experience, I know you've kind of blazed your own trail, but for you, did you ever find yourself in situations where you had to, shield yourself from either microaggressions or have to kind of find a depth within yourself for protection in order to keep doing what you're doing?
Oh, yes. That's something that I attribute to my father teaching us, me and my brother. He was always like the generation we grew up in. Fathers were trying to make kings, philosophers, magicians, and my father was like, I just wanted to make champions. And the first thing you do as a champion is protect your mind and your heart. You can't protect anybody else. You can protect those two things of yourself. So there's times where you feel microaggressions, and I actually address it. I will bring it up on people and just address it and just discard it as quick as possible. Like, I didn't appreciate that. That's not true. That's not right. We have to understand that amongst people of color, and particularly Black people, we're an industry of alicorns. We're not unicorns. We're not thoroughbreds. We are a magical creature that flies. And because we always have multiple skills, we're not just producers, we're designers, we're producers and artists, we're programmers and artists. We have to have multiple skills, and we're very knowledgeable, and we can't make any mistakes. We're not afforded mistakes in our industry.
That is facts. I'm founding. So we're coming to a close, but is there anything, John, is there any closing remarks that you would like to make?
Yeah, I want to piggyback off what my brother said. The past has been that narrative has been used to restrict us. But I see, when I've traveled throughout Africa, and I see the African American community, and just working at GRX and seeing us as we're just building in the midst of insurmountable odds, and still here speaks of glory and strength. So that we need to keep moving forward and unite with one another. And that's all I have to say. I putting the past behind us and moving forward. Let's create a new story, a new narrative, a new way of being. And that's what I'm about. I'm not trying to necessarily be included per se, although I know it's important to have that mechanism. But at the same time, we want to create new ways, new doors, and it's never stopped us in the past. So just want to send that energy to our people.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Thank you so much for all of your words of wisdom. I so appreciate you. It's been fantastic. I really, really enjoyed our talk. So thank you so much. And thank you guys for joining us. And please, we'll be doing this again.